It was another peaceful morning in the house. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the sound of birds chirping filled the air. But for Tom, the resident cat, peace never lasted long, especially when Jerry, the mischievous mouse, was around. Today, Tom discovered a peculiar sight. The kitchen was stocked with a brand new wheel of cheese, larger than Jerry himself. As Tom licked his lips, imagining the taste of a cheese-stuffed mouse sandwich, Jerry peeked out from his mouse hole, eyes sparkling with excitement. Jerry knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. A cheese wheel this grand deserved his undivided attention. But getting it out of the kitchen and away from Tom would require strategy, skill, and a whole lot of luck. Act 1. The setup. Tom immediately stationed himself as the kitchen's guard. He donned a chef's hat and stood with a wooden spoon like a soldier protecting a prized jewel. Jerry, undeterred, began formulating his plan. He sketched a map, drew a few diagrams, and devised a multi-phase operation he called the cheese heist. Act 2. The distraction phase. One of Jerry's plan involved a distraction. Using a piece of string, he dangled a shiny, jingling keychain from the dining table. Tom's ears perked up at the sound, and he pounced, knocking over chairs and sending utensils clattering. Meanwhile, Jerry darted toward the cheese wheel. Tom realized the trick too late and bolted back to the kitchen. But Jerry had anticipated this. As Tom reached for him, Jerry launched a well-placed mousetrap that snapped shut on Tom's tail. A yowl echoed through the house, and Tom danced around in pain while Jerry giggled from his hiding spot. Act 3. The cheese escape. With Tom temporarily distracted, Jerry began rolling the cheese wheel toward his mouse hole. It wasn't easy. Each push sent it teetering in the opposite direction. To make matters worse, Tom was hot on his trail, now equipped with a broom and a sinister grin. Jerry led Tom on a wild chase through the house. The cheese wheel turned into a bowling ball, knocking over a set of flower vases. Tom slipped on a puddle of spilled water, and Jerry rode the cheese like a circus performer, laughing as he careened down the hallway. Act 4. The final showdown. Cornered in the living room, Jerry looked for a way out. Tom advanced, broom raised, ready to swat. But Jerry had one last trick. He pulled a string connected to a precariously balanced stack of books. The books toppled, sending a globe spinning toward Tom, who ducked just in time. However, the globe knocked the cheese wheel off course. It rolled straight toward a window, crashing through the glass and landing in the yard, right into the paws of Spike, the neighborhood bulldog. Spike sniffed the cheese, growled at Tom, and promptly claimed it as his own. Tom froze, knowing better than to mess with Spike. Meanwhile, Jerry slipped away, giving a sly salute to his frustrated feline foe. Epilogue. As Spike enjoyed his cheesy feast, Tom sulked by the broken window. Jerry, back in his hole, happily nibbled on a smaller wedge of cheese he had squirreled away earlier. And so, the day ended with Jerry victorious, Tom defeated, and Spike unexpectedly joining the chaotic fun. For Tom, it was just another episode in his never-ending battle with a clever little mouse. Spike wasn't just enjoying the cheese, he was hoarding it. The bulldog dragged the wheel to his doghouse, carefully constructing a cheese fortress to protect his newfound treasure. Jerry watched from a distance, his whiskers twitching with interest. Spike might be tough, but even Jerry couldn't resist the challenge of sneaking back some of that delicious cheese. Tom, meanwhile, decided he'd had enough of losing to Jerry.
He hatched his own plan.
If Jerry wanted the cheese, why not work together to outsmart Spike? It was a risky idea, but Tom knew he couldn't take on the bulldog alone. Jerry was skeptical when Tom extended a paw in truce. Tom offered a deal. If Jerry helped him retrieve the cheese, they'd split it 50-50. Jerry, ever the cautious mouse, agreed, but only after Tom signed a contract on a scrap of paper which Jerry promptly tucked into his hole. The plan was simple. Jerry would distract Spike, while Tom sneaked into the doghouse to retrieve the cheese. But as always, nothing ever went as planned. Jerry's distraction involved tying a rope to a bone and tossing it over the fence. Spike, true to form, bolted after the bone, leaving his fortress unguarded. Tom crept toward the doghouse, cautiously avoiding a pile of squeaky toys that could give him away. Just as Tom reached the cheese, Spike realized he'd been tricked. He turned back, growling, and charged toward the doghouse. Jerry, quick on his feet, dashed to Spike's favorite spot, a shady tree, and began jumping up and down, shaking loose a branch full of apples. The apples rained down on Spike, momentarily stunning him. Tom seized the opportunity to grab the cheese wheel, but it was heavier than he thought. As he struggled to drag it away, Jerry joined in, pushing from behind. Together, they managed to roll it back toward the house. As soon as the cheese was safely in the kitchen, Tom's true colors emerged. He locked the door, leaving Jerry outside. With a smirk, Tom began preparing his long-dreamed-of cheese feast. But Jerry was prepared for this betrayal. He slipped through the ventilation ducts and reappeared just as Tom was about to take his first bite. Using a slingshot, Jerry launched a spoonful of chili powder directly into Tom's mouth. Tom's yelp shook the house as he ran for water, knocking over the cheese in the process. The cheese wheel rolled through the house, once more, gathering speed. It crashed into furniture, bounced off walls, and finally barreled out the back door, straight towards Spike, who had been watching the chaos unfold from his yard. Spike caught the cheese wheel mid-roll and growled, making it clear that this time, it wasn't going anywhere. Tom and Jerry, realizing their battle had been in vain, could only watch as Spike trotted back to his doghouse with the cheese. Back inside, Tom slumped against the wall, exhausted. Jerry emerged from his hole, holding out a tiny white flag. They exchanged a weary glance and decided to call a truce for now. As the two shared a small wedge of leftover cheese, Spike could be heard snoring contentedly in his fortress. In the world of Tom and Jerry, victories were always temporary, but the chase, that was forever. The sight of Spike snoring with the cheese was too much for both Tom and Jerry to bear. The two unlikely allies huddled together, brainstorming their next move. This time, they needed a plan so clever that even Spike wouldn't see it coming. Jerry, ever the mastermind, drew up a blueprint on a piece of cheese wrapper. The idea? A cheese decoy. Using ingredients from the kitchen, they would create a fake cheese wheel, lure Spike away, and reclaim the real prize. Tom nodded eagerly, already imagining the taste of victory and cheese. They got to work immediately. Tom raided the pantry, gathering a block of yellow soap, a few old sponges, and some leftover cheddar for authenticity. Jerry, with his tiny hands, sculpted the materials into a passable imitation of a cheese wheel. To complete the illusion, they sprayed it with cheese-scented aerosol. The decoy looked perfect, at least from a distance. Now came the tricky part, swapping it with the real cheese. That night, as Spike snored loudly in his doghouse, Tom and Jerry crept toward the fortress. Jerry carried a string attached to the decoy, while Tom tiptoed with surprising grace for a cat of his size. As they neared the doghouse, Jerry tugged on the string, dragging the decoy into place. Tom carefully rolled the real cheese out, inch by inch. Spike, still feeling betrayed by the fake cheese trick, wasn't one to let grudges slide. As Tom and Jerry resumed their usual antics, Spike devised his own plan to teach the two troublemakers a lesson. He fortified his doghouse, adding a moat of mud and stacking cans of leftover bones as makeshift walls. But Spike wanted more than defense, he wanted payback. Under the cover of night, Spike sneaked into the kitchen. Using his brute strength and cunning, he dragged the refrigerator, yes, the entire refrigerator, into his yard. His plan was simple: no fridge, no cheese, no more fights in his territory. The next morning, Tom and Jerry woke to find the kitchen empty. Jerry scratched his head in confusion, while Tom, panicking, searched every corner. Spike, watching from his yard, chuckled to himself, munching on a leftover drumstick. Tom immediately blamed Jerry for the missing fridge, accusing him of another elaborate prank. Jerry, indignant, pointed to the trail of claw marks leading to the backyard. The two set aside their feud temporarily and investigated together. Outside, they found Spike lounging by his doghouse, smugly resting a paw on the stolen fridge. Tom and Jerry exchanged a knowing glance. If they wanted their cheese and the rest of the food back, they'd need to team up once again. Jerry crafted another intricate plan. This time it involved a pulley system, a garden hose, and a bag of birdseed. The idea? Distract Spike by summoning the neighborhood birds while Tom used the pulley to lift the fridge back over the fence. The plan started smoothly. Jerry scattered birdseed near Spike's doghouse, and within minutes, a flock of noisy birds descended, pecking and squawking. Spike growled, trying to shoo them away. Meanwhile, Tom tied the garden hose around the fridge and began hoisting it up the makeshift pulley. But as always, chaos was inevitable. The pulley system worked too well. As Tom lifted the fridge, the hose slipped, and the entire contraption swung wildly. The fridge toppled over, spilling its contents, eggs, milk, and leftover meatballs, onto the lawn. Spike, now covered in bird feathers and spaghetti sauce, turned his wrath on Tom and Jerry. The two scrambled in opposite directions, narrowly dodging Spike's powerful paws. The spilled food created a slippery mess, sending Spike skidding into the bird bath. Tom, trying to grab a block of cheese, slipped on the milk and crashed into a bush. Jerry, ever the opportunist, grabbed a tiny wedge of cheese and darted back to his hole.